Hello again. Here we are to talk about some more JavaScript and continue our discussion of handlebars and templates and creating dynamic pages from data. Um, Again, like this whole thing that we're doing here could extend into a lot of ideas. Essentially, we're just loading a JavaScript file here called data that's got an array in it. This actually could be JSON data that you load from the internet, right? So this could come from a database, it could come from some service or API that you're using. For this example, we're just kind of writing up our own data just to keep things simple, but this is the start of a lot of possibilities, okay? In this video, I'd like to kind of bring up some simple ideas to improve on our template here, but the template actually is very cool and there's a lot we can do with this. So it'll take a few videos to get into all of the things that you can do with this. Though it's just going to be redoing what we do here and doing it better, okay? So what are we going to do next? Well, let's imagine, we're loading in these little blocks of code into here. And what we'd like to do, actually, I loaded into nav. That actually doesn't look like nav. That seems like it should really be like page content, right? So let's change that up. Why don't we put another div here and change this one to, ID, how about content? I don't know, how about that, right? Content. So let's beautify that, right? And why don't we put a little note to ourselves in here, nav stuff, and this will be, content here. Okay. And, so I've got my content, I got ID content there, and right now I was actually posting that all to nav. Let's change this to content. Right, so now it'll put it in that second div, right? It'll take all this and put it in the second div right here. And then I'm going to change this variable from nav content to just content, right? That'll just make a little more sense. So we'll change it in those three places. We got, content, content, and content, so that's pretty good. Let's change the name here too. So instead of just template, which is kind of generic, why don't we call it content template? Okay, and if I do that, then I need to change it here too. Okay, so now there we go. So that's pretty good. So now imagine we're loading all of our data here, and we're generating page content. So imagine these are areas of the page. They've got a title, they got the full text here, and maybe we could have some other stuff, pictures or whatever, right? But imagine we also want to generate some links. And the links up here will link to the content here, okay? So let's make a couple small changes. So what I want to do is I want to use this ID to uniquely identify each one of the content divs that's generated by this object. So I'm back in data.js, and maybe this first one here, the ID will be, about. And the second one, the ID will be, I don't know, work. And the third one will be, I don't know, let me think of something. I don't know what to call this one. Let's do contact. How about that, right? So we contact, right? So we'll save that, right? And so let's imagine we want to generate, IDs with this name, right? So that's going to happen already because we're putting the ID here. But now imagine we want to create a bunch of links in the nav block that link to these IDs that we have, right? So what we'll do is we'll make another template. So this time let's write the template from scratch. So we'll follow their lead. So we'll make a script tag, okay? The script tag needs to have an ID. So we can give it an ID. Let's call it ID. Let's call it nav template, okay? And then it has to have a type, and the type has to be text x handlebars template. So it has to be just like this. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it here, okay? And now in here I can do anything I want. So maybe the div right here, maybe that should really be a UL. So maybe I'll put this UL here, and I have ID content. I can actually get the UL from, as a child of this guy, and I'll insert all my content here. So if it's a UL, then my content item should be list items, right? Okay, so let's go to our navigation template, and every nav item will be a list item with an anchor tag. So I'm just writing regular HTML, no quotation marks all over the place, except where they're needed normally, right? And inside here, though, I want to put the title, right? So we'll use the handlebars, right? And then right here, I want to insert the ID, but I also need the hashtag in front of the ID. So I'm going to put the hashtag there, and then I'll do the handlebars, and I'll insert the ID, okay? And that's pretty good, right? So that was a really simple template to make. And now that we've got that template, let's compile it, right? So what we'll do is we'll go down here, we'll say var. I'm going to skip the extra variable there, and we'll just do it the other way. So we'll call this like nav template equals handlebars dot compile, and then our source needs to be the text here inside this tag. So the ID name of this is nav template. So what we'll do is we'll use jQuery. We'll make a selector, which is this nav. Wait, let me undo that. I copied the wrong one. Let's copy this name right here. Paste it there. So it should be nav template. We got to put the hash mark in there, right? Because it's an ID. Pardon me, because it's an ID name. And then we want to get the HTML from it. So we'll do .html, okay? Let me zoom out of that a little bit, right? So handlebars .compile, and then this, parentheses here, is the, is the parentheses for that method. And then inside here, we're going to put this thing, $ for jQuery. We're going to make a string selector that selects this tag up here by its ID name. So it needs the hash mark. And then we got to spell the ID name. And then we'll say .html, and that's going to return the contents here. And then the handlebars compile method will go through this, generate a function that will allow us to easily insert these properties from an object. Okay? And then we'll store it in this nav template variable. Okay, so now let's make another var here for our nav content. Okay, so since we're looping through the data and we need one nav item for each content item, we can just do it all right here, right? So just in the one loop. So now let's say nav content plus equals nav template, and then we'll just pass in data bracket p, right? So so there we go. We'll just pass the same object into the nav template, and it'll generate a string from this and replace these guys with the properties from the data object, right? And there we go. So now we'll do one more step, and we'll insert the nav content into, let me take a look again. So it's ID nav, and then it's the UL, and I want those list items to appear here, right? Because my template is list items, right? So what we'll do is we'll say, what did I call that guy again? I called him nav, right? So actually I was, I put, you guys probably saw I made a mistake there. This should have been a UL here for nav stuff, right? So everybody that caught me when I did that, you guys passed the quiz there. Let's rearrange this, right? There we go, right? Okay, so content is not going to have the UL. It's going to be nav that has the UL, okay? So there we go, right? So it'll be nav child UL. So what we'll do here, we'll say a nav child UL, okay? I'll put a space around that little arrow there. and then we can say .html is going to be nav content. Okay, so there we go. Let's give it a try. So we'll save that. We'll hide all this. We'll refresh it here, and now you can see that I have my links. You know, if I click on them, actually it won't jump to these because the page isn't big enough. But if the page was really big, you would see that it would jump to the item that you clicked on, because that's the default behavior that it's the default behavior that happens when you click a link with the ID name as the href, right? So it'll automatically jump when you have the ID name here, right? And there you go, right? Let's take a quick look at the elements in the inspector here. So here's my nav UL. There's the LI tag, and when I open that up, I have an anchor tag, and then it's got the hashtag with the the ID name, right? I should have probably done those ID names lowercase. And what's nice about that is, like, think about this, the spelling here has to match the spelling down here for the ID name, right? This one and that one. And if you typed them manually, you could make a mistake. Here we're generating all the content, mechanically or, through code. And so it's inserting the exact same property in both places, so we can't really mess up the spelling that way, right? So anyway, good luck with that. Challenge yourself now. Build this template so it does something interesting. Try and add an image into these items. Maybe add some style, right? I haven't had any. Don't have any CSS here. Why don't you add CSS to this page and set it up? Think about that example where I clicked on the links and it scrolled the page. Do that, okay? Use that example here. So when you click on these guys, it scrolls the page, and now every time you want to add a new element to your page, you can just go into data and add a new object to your array, okay? So thanks for watching. I hope that is interesting.